event permit process is very important because it helps us determine the public impact of an event. These permits are required whenever public spaces, such as public streets or public parks or other city property, is being used for the permitted event. More or less, I mean, there's a permit sheet you fill out. You fill out the form and you put down what your event is, and sometimes events are reoccurring, so you already know the kind of things you need from the city. Yeah, I'm going to need this. I'm going to need streets to close roads. I'm going to need this many trash cans because we do this every year. Sometimes you don't know that. You just have this idea of doing an event at a location. And so you just put down there, you put the number of people you're going to have on there. We determine the type of insurance you would have to have in order to hold the city harmless if anything happened. We also determine there's going to be a permit fee unless you're a city-sponsored event. There's a permit fee for all the costs associated with providing the city services.
We ask for 30 days so that we can ensure that all the services that may be requested are able to be considered, approved, coordinated in time for the event. So this is especially important when we have larger events such as festivals and parades, and there's a lot of coordination within various departments that go into play. And also we ask citizens to do that just because you have to keep in mind our department processes over 800 assembly permits every year. So, just the coordination of that and making sure that we're staying on top of it, giving the citizen what they're requesting if at all possible. Sometimes that can take some time to do, or we need to work with them and say the pavilion wasn't available or it's not available on that initial date. So there's time to make those adjustments when needed. And so that's why we request that. Again, sometimes for smaller events, especially if they're just within a park, they don't always take that time frame, and we do try to expedite them, but we do ask that initially give us a 30-day process to ensure that we can get it, but we will work to get it done in a shorter time frame when that is possible.
The Public Safety Act aspect is really related to the road closures and street closures, and like for instance a parade, traveling through town, there's a lot of street closures and a lot of notifications we have to have for that. And again, all the safety personnel, ambulances, fire department, police department, they all have to know that that street is closed, so when they're running a call they can go around it. We have to notify LATS, so LATS knows that they can't cross that. They have to reroute their buses around there. So there's a significant public safety aspect to these events, as well as, even an event where you're just anytime you have an event where you bring a lot of people together, there's a crowd control issue sometimes, and so we have to sometimes we notify the police department, let them know what's going on so that they can sort of be prepared and know what to expect if there's a call on that event.
So the staffing requirements depend on, of course, what type of request it is. If it's a large event, such as what I do with festivals, International Festival, Freedom Festival, there's a lot of staffing that goes into an event of that size. The parades, we're coordinating with other divisions, other departments, and so of course you would know that would require a great deal of staffing, because you've got to look at preparing the site and setting up for the event and tearing down for the event and the cleanup. So quite a bit of time and preparation and staffing, man hours and equipment goes into an event like that. But for most of what our citizens are requesting, smaller private events, weddings, cookouts, things like that, there's still services that need to be provided by our staff, such as mowing an area or maybe taking additional trash barrels out there for them, ensuring restrooms are open if it's at one of our parks where we have restroom facilities. And so the other thing that's important to remember with staffing of the assembly permit request is that we don't have staff who that's all they do. all of our staff is responsible for other day-to-day operations within the city. And so when we have a request, we have to coordinate with that division and pull them off their day-to-day operation to fulfill a request for an assembly permit. So even though it may not have much of a requirement that for services, there's still some coordination and staffing that we have to provide for any event that happens within the City of Lawton. We do want citizens to utilize our parks. We want the citizens to have their family events, their birthday parties at our playgrounds and in different facilities that we have. But we still have to coordinate those events. And so the coordination is what's important, and the permit process is a means of communication between the citizen and the city and staff that's required to help make their event successful, whether it's 10 people or 30,000 people, and so in order to do that, you have to communicate. And so the permit process is a great way to communicate, because you're giving us your number of participants, you're telling us how many vehicles are going to be there, what location you want, when you want it, what's the time frame you're going to be there. So then if we didn't know all of that, there could be 4 families show up at one time to do a birthday party for, their daughter or son, and then who gets to use it. So it's just an opportunity to help us ensure that your event is when you want it, how you want it, where you want it, and that everything's great for it. And that's what we want as the Parks and Rec Department. It's to help you make your event great for your family, for your organization, whatever it may be.